Renting is throwing money away. It is one of the most repeated financial statements in existence, delivered with total confidence, almost never followed by actual numbers. The phrase is not entirely wrong. It is also not entirely right. And the gap between those two things is where an enormous amount of money gets decided, often based on a slogan instead of a calculation. Start with what the phrase gets right. Rent produces no equity. Every payment goes to a landlord and builds ownership in exactly nothing. That part is true and worth taking seriously. Here is the part the phrase leaves out entirely. Buying also involves money that disappears permanently. Mortgage interest, gone. Property taxes, gone. Homeowners insurance, gone. Maintenance and repairs, gone. Closing costs to purchase and roughly 6% to 10% in commission and fees to eventually sell, gone. Buying is not the absence of money vanishing. It is a different category of money vanishing, one that gets called equity building instead of rent, even when much of it produces no equity at all. The real comparison requires actual numbers, not a slogan. Here they are, using current market data. For a $400,000 home purchased with 20% down at a 6.5% mortgage rate, the current average, the total monthly cost of ownership runs approximately $3,200 to $3,600. That figure includes the mortgage payment, property taxes, insurance, and an estimated 1% to 2% of home value annually for maintenance. A comparable home in the same market typically rents for $2,200 to $2,500 per month. The monthly gap is £700 to $1,400. Money the buyer pays every month that a renter of the identical home does not. That gap is real, and it is larger than most prospective buyers expect walking into the decision. The most commonly missed piece of the entire calculation is the opportunity cost of the down payment. A 20% down payment on a $400,000 home is $80,000. That $80,000 could instead be invested in a diversified index fund. At a conservative 5% return net of taxes, $80,000 grows to roughly $130,000 over 10 years. Money that exists only in the scenario where it was never converted into a down payment in the first place. Almost no rent versus buy conversation accounts for this. It is the single largest hidden number in the entire decision. So does the equity from owning outpace all of this? The answer depends entirely on one variable: how long the property is held. Run the 10-year scenario with real numbers. A renter paying $2,200 a month, with rent increasing 3% to 5% annually, as is typical, pays approximately $365,000 in cumulative rent over 10 years. But that renter also invested the $80,000 that would have been a down payment. And at a 5% return, that investment grows to roughly $99,000 net of what was contributed and grown. The renter's net cost, accounting for the investment gains, sits meaningfully lower than the raw rent total suggests. The buyer, over the same 10 years, pays down roughly $57,000 in mortgage principal. If the home appreciates at a typical 3% annually, it grows from $400,000 to approximately $597,000. After accounting for a full decade of property taxes, insurance, and maintenance, the permanently vanished costs, the buyer's net equity sits at approximately $235,000. At the 10-year mark in this scenario, buying wins by a wide margin. This is the case housing economists make repeatedly. The longer the holding period, the more the math shifts toward buying, because fixed mortgage payments become relatively cheaper as rents rise, and because equity compounds the longer it has to grow. But that outcome is not universal, and here is where the slogan truly falls apart. The break-even point, the number of years required before buying becomes cheaper than renting once every cost is included. currently stretches to 7 to 9 years in most metro areas, according to 2026 Housing Economist analysis. Below that horizon, renting wins. Above it, buying wins. And the specific number depends heavily on one ratio: the price-to-rent ratio, calculated by dividing the home's purchase price by its annual rent. A ratio under 15 favors buying decisively. This describes many Midwest and Southeast markets where a $250,000 home might rent for $1,800 a month. A ratio over 20 favors renting. This describes expensive coastal metros, where price-to-rent ratios exceed 25 in San Francisco and 45 in San Jose. Research from Empower found buying is currently cheaper month to month in 23 of the 50 largest US metros, while renting wins in the other 27. There is no single national answer. The math is entirely local, and running it for a specific city and a specific timeline is the only way to get a real answer instead of a repeated slogan. Home price appreciation is the second variable that determines everything. At 3% or higher annual appreciation, buying wins decisively over most reasonable timeframes. At 0% to 2% appreciation, a real scenario in markets that have gone flat for extended periods, the renter who invests the difference can come out ahead even after 7 years. Nobody can predict future appreciation with certainty, which means the rent versus buy decision always carries genuine uncertainty, not a guaranteed answer in either direction. There is one more condition buried inside every version of this analysis that favors renting: discipline. The entire rent and invest the difference argument only works if the difference actually gets invested. A renter who pays $2,200 instead of $3,400 and spends the extra $1,200 monthly on lifestyle upgrades instead of an index fund is not executing the renting strategy. They are simply renting, with none of the offsetting investment growth that makes the comparison competitive in the first place. The math favoring renters is conditional on behavior that a meaningful number of people do not actually follow. None of this means either choice is universally correct. It means the slogan was always incomplete. Buying is not free of money disappearing. Renting is not the absence of a wealth-building strategy. If the savings are actually invested with the same consistency covered in the compound interest video. The right decision depends on the specific city, the specific timeline, the specific price-to-rent ratio, and whether the discipline to invest the difference genuinely exists. There are also entirely non-financial reasons that matter and deserve honest acknowledgement. The stability of a fixed mortgage payment against rising rent, the freedom to relocate without a 6% to 10% selling cost, the psychological value of ownership, and the very real cost of weekend repairs and contractor calls that renting simply does not carry. A financially optimal choice on a spreadsheet is not automatically the right choice for an actual life. The only correct response to renting is throwing money away is to ask which market, what timeline, and what happens to the money that isn't spent on a down payment. Everything else is a slogan standing in for a calculation that takes about 10 minutes to actually run. Drop a comment with the city and the price-to-rent situation being considered. The next video walks through the exact calculator and the specific numbers to plug in for a personal break-even timeline.